Welcome back to the channel. Back in April, DC Comics and Joshua Williamson killed off the entire Justice League, leading up to Dark Crisis. This week, we're at issue number 5 of 7, so we're almost done. And we've been promised for quite some time that issue 5 is the return of the Justice League. Do the Justice League return in Dark Crisis number 5? Kind of, sort of, maybe. Depends on how you want to look at it. Are they back on Earth? Certainly not. Are the Justice League out of their happiness multiverses? Yes, they are by the end of it. Let's talk about how that happens, then we'll get into the actual story, talking about how the legacy heroes are finally going to take a stand against the Dark Army, enacting the exact same plan they've done since the very beginning. There is a spoiler warning on this one. I'm going to talk about spoilers on it. I'm even going to show you the big last page reveal, because that is the formula for Dark Crisis under Joshua Williamson. You have a bunch of pages, not much happens. You get a big reveal on the last page, and normally they don't exactly pay it off on the next issue, and that's kind of how I feel about this comic book. The first thing you will notice about Dark Crisis number 5 is that Daniel Sampri's art is absolutely phenomenal. It's been great since issue number 1, and issue number 5 is no different. Makes this story a lot better than it really is, in my opinion. But first, they need to free the Justice League. We've got Hal Jordan and Barry Allen back together again, and they decide they're going to free Batman first. They go to the Batman universe, and he is hesitant. Actually, he wants to fight the Flash. And finally, they get to him. They say, this is your real world. They show him the Bat family, and he says, Barry, how? Realizing that something is not right, that this isn't the world that he should be in. And Barry says, that moment you wake up could be a doozy, Bruce. But they are not done. They need to free the rest of the Justice League. They skip over freeing Wonder Woman, and they go straight to Superman. When they arrive in the Superman happiness multiverse, he is oddly at peace with everything, and apparently he knows everything that's been happening. Why this wasn't addressed in the Worlds Without a Justice League Superman special, I don't know. But Superman says, I tried to escape so many times over the years, but my world wouldn't let me. So instead I studied. Pariah used our minds to build these dream worlds, but I have become lucid. This place is only a prison so far as our imaginations will let it. Pariah thought he could keep me trapped by giving me a happily ever after with my family. He thought that would be enough. And then despite Barry Allen saying, I can travel between the happiness multiverses, but I can't get us out, Superman just can. Which begs the question, if Superman could escape the happiness multiverse, why didn't he? Apparently it was all because of the power of friendship. Well, okay, I'll buy that, I guess. In a hopeful DC universe, friendship powered Superman's ability to escape the happiness multiverse and bring the other characters with him. But why did he wait for it? What if they were too late? What if Pariah was successful and destroyed everything they ever knew or loved? It was all very strange. Superman escaped. How did he escape? I don't know. They never really explained it other than friendship. I believe that's what it is. And at this point, they arrive on the dead multiverse where Pariah is. And when that's happening, Pariah's like, oh no, before I was getting powered up because they were moving between the multiverses, but now they're destroying them and I don't have enough power and I can't complete my plan to bring back infinite Earths. They've destroyed everything. The Justice League arrive and they tell him they're going to stop him. And he's like, oh no, I've been thwarted. And then all of a sudden he says, but you're too late. Now it's working and Superman isn't fast enough to stop him as he teleports away to the very end of the comic book. And that, friends, is the return of the Justice League, but there's a catch. There's a caveat. If they leave the dead multiverse where Pariah was and they try to go back to Earth 1, they will be erased from existence. Why that is, I'm not really sure, because we literally see Pariah do the exact same thing. But apparently that is a limitation on this Justice League. So they kind of have returned. They're no longer in their happiness multiverses, but they're stuck. They're marooned on this dead multiverse where Pariah was. And that's where we leave the Justice League. They did not come back to save the day. They did not come back and join forces with Nightwing and the other legacy heroes to fight the Great Darkness, at least yet, because apparently they can't or they will be erased. Now let's get over to the other big story, which is Nightwing trying to put a plan together to fight off Slade Wilson and the Dark Army. At the very beginning of this, we do see Black Adam was meeting with the Legion of Doom, and they were deciding how they were going to save the world. That did not turn out well. It turns out Deathstroke and the Dark Army arrived in time, and the only person that survived was Black Adam, saved by Mr. Terrific, Supergirl, and Sideways, which I must give them a little round of applause. We never see Sideways, so that was kind of cool. When they return with Black Adam, they find out Mr. Terrific deployed his T-spheres, and they did analysis, and they know what to do now. According to Mr. Terrific, Slade is the key to everything. his forces not only attack heroes, but spread the darkness, and as that darkness grows, so too does the darkness in the multiverse. We are on the edge of a massive crisis. And they determine if they can kill Deathstroke, that everyone else that has been infected by the darkness will no longer be infected. Why that is the case? Because of Mr. Terrific's T-spheres. That's the answer that we get, which I don't think makes a lot of sense given the scope of the story and what's been told so far. That is absolutely Deus Ex Machina territory there. And we see Nightwing say, Oracle, put out a call to everyone to come to the Hall of Justice. Every hero you can reach, we need to be together. This has essentially been his plan since day number 1, trying to get all the heroes that are left, the legacy heroes, to band together, create a new Justice League, and fight beside him against the Great Darkness. But up until now, very few heroes have heeded the call and decided to fight beside Nightwing. We have seen the JSA and some select other heroes, and all of a sudden this time they just all show up. Why? I don't know. What changed? We never get a real good reason why this plan, which Nightwing has tried to do 3 or 4 times now during the event, but has always failed, all of a sudden works this time. I guess it worked because it needed to for the plot. And because of this, for reasons which don't make any sense, the JSA decide, despite being the longest tenured heroes in the vicinity that actually have the best chance to stop the Dark Army themselves, decide we need to leave so we can investigate something. You stay here with the rest of the heroes and you fight. Yes, he does have the original Titans to fight beside him. He also gets the students that didn't die at Teen Titans Academy to join him. That feels more like a liability than an added bonus to the team or whatnot. And then out of nowhere, we get this doozy. Apparently, if you read Dark Crisis, The Deadly Green, which I'm not reading any more tie-ins because I read Worlds Without a Justice League, a couple of issues of those, and I read Dark Crisis Young Justice, and I realized how bad the tie-ins were. Apparently, you needed to read that to understand this. John Kent shows up. The Great Darkness is now controlling Pariah. Pariah's mind has corrupted it. We weren't able to figure out how, but we were able to extract Pariah's original antimatter chamber. It was the machine Pariah built on his world that triggered the destruction of the original Infinite Earths. He explains to Damian that it's really bad out there, and Damian says, Dr. Light, you're coming with me on another side adventure that apparently they want me to read, Dark Crisis, The Dark Army. Spoilers, I'm not reading any more tie-ins to Dark Crisis. I don't care how important they are at this point. And as this new ragtag group of heroes under the leadership of Nightwing are about to fight Deathstroke, the Secret Society, the Legion of Doom, all these entities controlled by the Dark Army, Black Adam shows up and says, what makes you think sidekicks will succeed where so many others have failed? So I guess this is the part where it becomes about legacy. The multiverse will not be saved by children. You are not the Justice League, to which Nightwing replies, we never were. And he says, we're the Teen Titans. And that's like the big moment of the comic book that's supposed to get you excited. And that leads to this confrontation that really should be the central focus of this comic book. Stuffing in the Return of the Justice League is a huge mistake because once again, we have this big conflict that's supposed to have all these stakes around it, and they don't deliver anything. At one point, Deathstroke tells his daughter Rose, who's infected with darkness, that she needs to go kill Nightwing. That sounds pretty cool, but Nightwing is hell-bent on killing Deathstroke and freeing everyone from the Great Darkness or whatever. There could be some stakes raised, but that never really happens. We see a few images, they're kind of neat, but we never see who's winning. Is it the Titans winning, or is it the Dark Army that's winning? Is Nightwing about to kill Deathstroke? Is Rose about to kill Nightwing? There's like all this cool stuff that could be happening, like tides turning during the battle, but you only get like 3 or 4 pages of the battle itself, which should be the center point of this comic book. And it's all just disappointing, just like everything else. So we could lead to this big last page reveal where we see Pariah show up with all these monsters, super powerful villains from the DC Comics universe. If Deathstroke and the Dark Army were already kicking their butts, like why did they need to show up? Were they about to defeat the Dark Army? That would have been a cool moment. Nightwing, Wally West, the Titans are like, oh my goodness, we're going to win. We banded together and we're about to beat Deathstroke and the Dark Army. I'm about to kill Deathstroke himself and free everybody. And then, oh no, Pariah shows up with Darkseid and Doomsday and the Spectre and all these badass villains. We thought we were about to win, but we didn't, because finally the A team of villains really has shown up and we have no chance. But they never build that kind of tension up. There's a few pages of battle, and then this happens. And it says death to the DC universe is next. Way too much talk about Dark Crisis energy. I feel like I'm reading a Scott Snyder comic book this time, but it's also trying to be Crisis on Infinite Earths at the exact same time. It gets really confusing. Way too many Deus Ex Machinas in here. Way too many plot points that are really important that just happen because they needed to happen. Nothing really makes sense in this comic book, if you ask me. I'm not going to tell you this is a bad comic book. If you leave your brain at the door and you're not expecting a really engrossing, really well thought out story with really cool plot twists and stuff like that, you'll probably enjoy this. There's a lot of action in the comic book. The art looks fantastic. There are a couple of character moments that are going to hit you in the feel spots. But the story itself is like collapsing in on itself kind of thing. It's a house of cards that's broken at this point. And we know this is all leading up to the dawn of DCU, another reboot for the DC Comics universe. We only had one less than 2 years ago, but we're already leading into another one. These are my thoughts on Dawn of DCU. If you don't know about this or you'd like some more information, definitely check this one out. This video is absolutely for you. You don't see it here. There's a link in the video description.